Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. As you can see, I have with me Professor Gautam Desiraju, who's going to tell us about something which is most important today, something where we see the fight between America and China, which is called supply chains. Supply chains are the future. Rare earths, oil, oil I keep talking about all the time, and of course, finances. But most importantly, today, what we are looking at is the supply chain game. How does it actually go forward? And sir has, as a matter of fact, written a book which is called India's Supply Chains in a World at War. So that's what it is. You can check this out. And we're just going to try and see what sir is trying to say about this whole game. There's just so much happening, and let's try and understand. Sir, namaskar. Welcome to the show.
Hey, namaste, Adi. It's great to be in your show again, and I'm quite looking forward to our conversation. Thank you.
So tell us, sir. We did have a lot of conversations about what do you call rare earths, and we did have our discussions about it. We see that happening in front of us as part of a supply chain. I don't know, disruption or whatever you may want to call it. Uh, how do you see the whole game today, sir? To open.
Well, you mentioned rare earths. So there's nothing as good as using rare earths as an example. So the story about rare earths is there are 17 of them, and they have very, very special properties
Hmm.
that the other elements of the periodic table do not have. So these 17 are special. And the problem is that these 17 are chemically similar, but the properties are very different. This is another enigma. And each one of them has a specific use. For example, one may be used for cell phone, one may be used in a hologram, one may be used in a GPS system, which can be used both for civilian and military purposes. The important one, which members of the public know, is neodymium, which is used to make permanent magnets. Okay, so these are, they hang about all over the place. They're not rare, by the way, but what was happening was till the 1960s, the USA had a near monopoly on these rare earths because they used to mine them in a place in California called Mountain Pass. The problem with these rare earths is that the chemistry required to extract the metal from the ore is very polluting. And at the time of the America China detente with Nixon, and a few years after that, America started giving this polluting processes to China. And they started giving them some know how. And it was in 1990 or so that Deng Xiaoping made his famous statement that the West Asia has oil, but China has rare earths. So, what the Chinese did was they have obtained a large number of ores of these rare earths. The rare earths are all in the form of oxide, so you have to get the metal from that. And that is the polluting chemistry. So China itself has a lot of rare earths. Any country that has a large surface area will have a lot of rare earths. They are not so rare, as I said. So India also has, but we don't know where they are, unfortunately. So China, they had these rare earths in inner Mongolia. They started extracting a place where there was no habitation. So vast areas have become polluted. And after some time, the Chinese even started getting ores from all over the world. So what they did was, this is where the supply chain comes in. The supply chain is the whole sequence of events that you go from the ore to the metal, and from the metal to the product where the metal is used, like say a magnet or a cell phone or something. And once you do that, then you can export the final product. Now, what China did was very clever. They controlled all aspects of this supply chain. They were able to get the ores, they were able to purify the ore to get the metal, and most importantly, they started making the final product. So, when you control the whole supply chain, Adi, basically you have a monopoly and you can charge the world whatever you want. And so, there was this notorious case in 2006 or 2010, when Japan started saying something that the Chinese didn't like. I think it was about Taiwan or something. So all of a sudden, they cut off the supply of neodymium products to Japan, and the price of neodymium went skyrocketed, and for a year or two. But then the Japanese were really helpless at that point. They were on their knees. And then, irony of ironies, uh, the US having given over the original, go ahead to China to do all this, started coming at the receiving end. Because China today, if you look at the current events, when USA put some ban on semiconductors, know-how to China. China has put a ban on rare earth export to the US. So you see, this is what is happening now with supply chain. Supply chain is no more the old version what the business schools and all teach, that it has got to do with simply domestic transportation or something. So already I'm mentioning this China and America. And these two countries are now in a tussle to get these rare earths, because without rare earths, and the permanent magnets, you can't do all these, missiles, rockets, and all these systems of defense which you feature so very often in your program. None of these would be possible without these 17 elements. And China has now got a stranglehold. So other countries now have to just scramble. And it looks like US is again starting up that mountain pass in California, which the unique thing about that mountain pass in California is that it has got all 17 rare earths. In no other place in the world are all 17 of them found in the same small area. So the Americans, being who they are, I don't believe that they will let the thing slip over completely into China's hands. And then, of course, in our book, we talk about, because this is a book about India's supply chains. What can India do in a situation like this to have at least some control over some aspect of the supply chain? Recently, I was just seeing yesterday that we have actually got a policy statement about how to make a neodymium in India, how to extract neodymium from India. Main problem here is we don't even know where the ores are, because we've not, and we describe that in the book as to why we don't know what we have. So, to give an example with these rare earths, since you mentioned, this is the whole business of supply chain today. So, it's global, and it involves many countries, and each country would try to, get something to show the other country in a vulnerable position. So, if you can control even a small aspect of a supply chain, you can create a choke point. So, India being a weaker member of this game with the two very strong empires, China and USA, so what can India actually do in a situation like this? So, this and other questions like this are what we talk in the book about so many things, not just rare earths, but also pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, energy, fertilizers, and so on.
So rare earths today are, as you said, rare, and the entire global geopolitics basically revives around it. We see Trump wanting to get into South America today for it's the lithium belt. I mean, at the end of it, that's something that we all
Correct.
know, and so it's basically defining the geopolitics of the world. How do you see this going forward?
Well, I think finally politicians have to worry about something called the periodic table, and the fact that elements cannot be created. If some country has got lithium, then it has got lithium, and a country that doesn't have lithium cannot produce lithium out of thin air. So no wonder Trump even wants rare earths from Ukraine. And I don't know, you probably know this better than me. Maybe he feels that he can get rare earths from Balochistan also. And it's actually a mad scramble, but in the end, it's very simple. For a start, the rare earths are not so rare. The thing is, they are called rare earths because at the time they were discovered 200 years ago, they were quite rare. They were a novelty. So that's why they are called rare. But any country that has a large land area, India, Australia, Russia, Canada, USA, China, South Africa, these are the countries that will have a lot of ores. Now, which of these 17 they have, that is something that was decided by geological events in the late Mesozoic era. So there's nothing we can do about why we have this and why we don't have this. But the fact of the matter is, like, take neodymium, which we talked about. Neodymium is all right. You need it for the permanent magnet. But unless you have 1% of another rare earth called dysprosium, that magnet won't be stable at high temperatures. So you can have all the neodymium you want, but if you don't have dysprosium, then that's pretty much useless for you. So very few countries, I think only China and Australia, are able to extract pure dysprosium from the ore. Firstly, dysprosium is much more rare than this is really rare compared to neodymium. So you see, each at each stage, and see, forget all these things. China has put in a lot of R&D effort into studying the chemistry and geology of rare earths for the last 30 years. 30 years, Adi. And so, by coming up today and putting some government statement saying we've got a task force to make neodymium, where will you go to get the relevant know how? Person from Australia or America is not going to tell us certain tricks of the trade to extract some of these things. So, we really have to make up for lost time.
I mean, in broad, India has a lot. We know we've got a lot of coal mines, so there's a lot of rare earths available in that region as well, uh, which is a thumb rule. Everybody says that you just go back to your coal mines, you will find rare earths in there, and it
You will
should be
find.
easy. It should be easier to actually extract from there. So, what do you think India's policy should be?
Well, in the book itself, we've proposed that we can't handle all 17 of them.
Mm,
But we tried to get a toehold into, we suggested the number three of them. One which is fairly common and where the extraction is easy and you may use them for non defense purposes. So, this is cerium. And cerium, in fact, is quite commonly found in the Earth's crust. And then we selected a second one, samarium, where it is believed that China has most of the supply and the processing capability, but it is something of a middle order price and a middle order availability. And finally, we've gone to dysprosium again, which is very critical. So we'll have to put in a great deal of effort. So, 17 is too many for India to cope with right now. So suppose we are even able to make a strong control over one of these three supply chains, then we will again be in some kind of a position of control. So it's going to be long and hard. It's not going to be something that will happen so easily, and we need a lot of research to go in at triple the speed. So we have to prioritize, I believe, based on what the applications of these three metals, cerium, samarium, and dysprosium. These are our choices, basically based on chemical and technological arguments. But we need a lot more of work at various levels in India. It cannot be done with a government department and with a office memorandum. It cannot be done like that.
mm. Do you see efforts right now within the country, sir, where there's a lot of, you know, I mean, there is of course a whole lot of private work which is happening. There's a whole lot of collaborative work which is being spoken about. There are committees which are being formed. Rare earth, we are talking about rare earth exchange which needs to be formed. We are talking about the 7,300 crore rupee, fund which has been created. There's a lot of research which is happening in the IITs and stuff like that, how to kind of do this differently. And interesting, there's also research which is happening how not to use these materials as well. So somebody came up with an alternative. It's not fully there yet, but they're saying we could figure this out. And India and Japan are also working together for something like this. So when you see India's efforts today, where are we?
Well, I'll tell you something that one of my professors in the University of Illinois told me when I was a PhD student 50 years ago.
Mhm.
And he was talking about synthetic organic chemistry, and which is the subject of my choice in those days. And he said, if you've got X number of dollars that you want to put on a project, just automatically make it 5x. whatever you're doing. So the Adi, let me say this: money makes the world go round, and
That's true.
if you want to make up for lost time, then the only way that I can see that you can do it is to put in money. I mean, I grew up in Mumbai, so we were having a discussion on what makes Bombay people different. I said that there are only two things that matter in Bombay. One is time and one is money. Nothing else matters in that city. So anybody who has lived there for any length of time is keenly aware of this balance between time and money. And with rare earths, we have lost a lot of time. I mean, not entirely our fault because we had so many problems till then. But okay, the Chinese have come where they have come. Now, how do we make up for this time? You have to put in a lot of money and you have to put in strict accountability. And there needs to be very close association with our academic departments and the industries and the technologists. The whole lot have to come together in a sort of a mission mode, like what we did for ISRO or atomic energy, things like that. So it has to be rare earths needs to be a mission of national importance. For instance, one suggestion which we have hinted at that even in the Ministry of Mines or whatever it is, have a separate department for rare earths so that at least the government bureaucracy will not come in the way. Right now, when you want to do a rare earths thing, also the kind of strange role that the Department of Atomic Energy has played in this rare earths business is something we have talked about, and it is actually totally irrelevant because DAE has nothing to do with rare earths. And we mentioned in the book, unfortunately, what happened for us was that this famous beach in Kerala, the monazite sands beach outside Thiruvananthapuram, there we've got a lot of thorium, which is extremely important for our atomic energy program, has also got a lot of cerium, the same beach. So when the whole thing came under DAE, everything in that beach became, closed and under wraps. So suddenly somebody said, hey, cerium is a rare earth. Thorium is not a rare earth. See, they said, hey, cerium is a rare earth. So all the rare earths came under the ambit of the DAE. And they are not really interested in these rare earths. They are interested only in thorium because that is what they use to make plutonium. That's an entirely different process scientifically. What happened in the meanwhile was that all the rare earths got stuck. So that if anybody goes to, say, I know, Jharkhand and finds some rare earths there or something, you have to go back to the DAE for permission. So you see, this is where the bureaucratic thing, we've described this episode in some detail in the book. So I would say one of the first things we need to do for rare earths is to get DAE out of this picture immediately. They have nothing to do with rare earths, or even if they do, something very small and very minor. It is not the mainstream activity of, that IREL or something they have, IREL,
Hmm.
this Rare Earths, Indian Rare Earths Limited. Basically, they've not done much. I mean, it's there on paper, but private industry has to come in. Even these IITs, they have to be told that this is this boy, this is what you have to do. In 1 year, you give me, okay, we will give you 10 crores. In 1 year, you please tell us that what is the essential problem in this neodymium thing. And if you don't show the result in 1 crore, there's no more project. That's over. Write off the 10 crores. I think that kind of boldness you need to show, and then for that you have to pick the fellow correctly. If you go to some fellow and say that, oh yeah, I know him because somebody whom I know has recommended him. No, go to the Web of Science, go to Scopus, see if this person has written about neodymium in the last 2 3 years. What is his background to talk about neodymium? Not just because somebody whom I know and I like said he's a good guy. You can't take decisions like that about things of strategic importance, Adi. This is where I think we are losing the plot in a big way.
Hmm. So when you look at the technology itself of extraction, sir, what do you think in terms of Indian capabilities at the moment
We
and
can
the work?
do. No, no, we can do, because finally that taking the oxide and converting it into the metal is a very, very simple process, called reduction. So
Mm,
all you need to do is to take the oxide and treat it with a reducing agent, which is usually coal, carbon. And the oxygen gets simply burnt off as carbon dioxide and you get the metal. I mean, this is common principle in all of metallurgy because many metals are obtained as oxides. The problem with this whole thing, as I said, is highly polluting because coal contains sulfur, then the sulfur gives off sulfur dioxide. All lots of things happen. So therefore, it has to be done in a place where there is no habitation. Inner Mongolia is ideal. If you look at the China map, the population is concentrated on the east coast, and that is the old Han China.
mm,
So all the internal areas were not even part of China till 150 years ago. So Inner Mongolia, Xinjiang, all those places you can do. Now you have to go to the India map and see where there are places where there is no habitation. This we are now see India, unlike China, there are people who live pretty much all over our country. So you have to really search. Rajasthan, maybe bits of Madhya Pradesh, maybe Chhattisgarh, maybe Jharkhand. That's about it. So you have to go to a place where nobody lives because you cannot do a cheap extraction process without causing pollution. There should
mm.
also not be major rivers in that area. Okay. Because if it goes into the river, then it will pollute so many things. Then finally and most important, this area should be sealed off and nobody should be allowed to come and go over many miles. And all these Andolan GVs and Supreme Court and all should be told right in the beginning that this is off bounds for them. No petition involving anything with rare earth extraction should not be allowed to come to the Supreme Court. Otherwise we can't do it. I'm telling you, we can't do it. Because with each of these things, everybody knows that the rare earths are important. You mean to say the US deep state won't try to bring these tukades and make them do an agitation? You mean to say some of our prominent people will not go to the Supreme Court? You mean to say that the Supreme Court judge will, everything is a delay. So if we are going to make up for lost time, somewhere we have to have the political will to say that rare earths is a matter of such great importance that all these things, the rules, general rules don't apply. Okay, if we will find some places where nobody lives. Maybe it won't be as big as Inner Mongolia, which is quite huge, but I'm sure we will find some place. And that's where you'll have. It's very cheap to transport the ore from anywhere to that place. That's not the limiting factor. So we get the ore and then we do it. I don't think this is, but the only thing is that you need to pinpoint where the problems come. And then I think we can do it. Extraction is not our problem. The next stage problem will be there for us to make the final application from the metal. Because if you give the metal to some other country, a country will be quite happy to import it from us. But you are giving them like a laddu, something what they can, put a high value addition and make the product. European country will take these metals from us. If we happily they will take. Because once again we are doing the dirty work, no? Like what China did. But China was clever enough to say that no, we are going to also make the application. So दोनों तरफ से they were able to catch the whole thing, and so they got control of the whole supply chain.
That is there, and one of the things that actually I also see is that Chinese don't care about all this stuff.
हाँ,
Simple as that. They don't care.
you're
Panch,
absolutely correct.
five
You're
people die.
absolutely correct.
Doesn't
Because
matter.
in the first 20 years they didn't care what they did.
Yeah,
In fact, I've seen photos and all of that Inner Mongolia and all. It looks like some moon crater or some picture of Mars or
yeah, yeah.
something.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
nothing. The whole thing, the whole area has been destroyed. And we don't know the long term effects on world climate and pollution and all. They simply don't care. And if somebody protests or something, some small chap living there, they'll just finish him off and that's all. But we can't
Right.
do that in India.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because
yeah.
Supreme Court, hey, no, so they will come into the picture and then again, Andolan Jeevi, Tukde, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That we know too well. So there has to be a government mechanism to prevent this, and at the same time, we are not an authoritarian country, so we can't go there and do whatever we like.
Hmm.
So that is
Lastly,
for
sir.
the political leadership. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Lastly, sir, I wanted to ask you. There has to be also a priority list as to what we are looking at in terms of what is needed. You know, what does the industry actually need? What is your defense requirement? What is your commercial requirement? And what is whatever research or whatever you need, the third aspect of it. What do you think India needs today in terms of the 17 rare earths? It can't be that we need all of them because then we are in soup.
No, can't need all of them, which is why I have picked the three metals
The
that I
three of
have
them.
picked.
So
I
what
mean,
what was your
the answer to your question is that this is called barbell strategy, and so you put in, let us say, some money into low risk metals like cerium. I mean, I think I've seen the number somewhere. I think there's 20 kilograms of cerium in any modern car that is sold for Indian roads. 20 kilos. But cerium is the 26th most common element in the Earth's crust. So cerium is actually more common in the Earth's crust than, say, lead and tin.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Okay. So cerium is not very difficult to find. So at the low end, this will help the automobile industry for sure. And it will help lots of things that require cerium. So it's a low risk, and also you don't have to put in so much money. It's a low risk, high gain activity, at least at a certain basic commercial level that middle class people will benefit. The car prices will come down if we get more cerium in the country.
no,
Now,
see, this is
samarium,
what I'm looking at. Yeah. Please go on.
and samarium is the middle one.
Hmm.
It is moderate price. I don't want to confuse the audience with too many technical words, but I think you have heard this term: light rare earths and heavy rare earths.
Heavy
So the
metals
light,
and light metals. Yes, sir.
yeah, something they say heavy and light. So samarium comes somewhere in the middle. It's still considered a light rare earth. It's not so costly, costlier than cerium, but it is used for a number of technical applications of a wide variety. It's one of the few rare earths that has multiple uses. Okay. So samarium is a good one because if one use doesn't work, then we can put our bets on another use. See, the whole thing about these rare earths at the supply chains today, Adi, is that we want to go to a system of resilience rather than fragility. So by going to something like samarium, it's a very resilient thing. If something doesn't work, you go somewhere else. And then you put in more money for dysprosium. Because there, the chances of losing are very high. But if you win, then you get a huge bonanza. And
Hmm.
there you should not allow a joint secretary to say that what will happen if we give 50 crores for dysprosium and the whole thing fails. Whole thing fails, mein to whole thing will fail. You have to understand that the project can fail itself. But at the same time, you will say, okay, we may lose 50 crores in dysprosium, but we will make 200 crores of safe money in cerium. So, yes, you have to take them together and you have to balance it off. And in the end, my plea is that it should not be left to a joint secretary to decide the policy. Because I think that's where we go wrong because they don't have the technical expertise. Like many people think manganese is a rare earth. They think lithium is a rare earth. These are not rare earths. They are metals, all right.
Metals.
They are metals, okay, but they are not rare earths. Rare earths is a specific group of these 17 only. Everything that is, I heard the other day manganese. Then I thought one day they will call iron as a rare earth also. You know, what do we scientists do when we hear statements like this? I mean,
No,
lithium is important, but lithium is not a rare earth. It's something else altogether. Lithium is connected with cobalt, which is connected with the batteries.
yeah,
In fact, almost none of these rare earths have much to do with the battery technology. They
batteries.
are
Lithium is something which is again touted to be something closer, probably because the same place you can get lithium, you can get some other stuff also.
That is true.
So
Again, lithium is not
probably,
uncommon. It's not uncommon. It's just
yes,
that we don't know where it is. Nobody
very
has
true.
looked, nobody has looked properly. We have a map in the book which shows the location of some of these metals. I mean, we found something in Mandya, which is not very far from where you and I live. So they have found some lithium there. They have found lithium in Riasi. But we do mention in the book, by the way, and this is important for viewers, just like neodymium needs dysprosium, lithium needs cobalt. And cobalt is something that is very tricky to get, most of it being available only in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that is where your supply chain comes in. Suppose both America and China, and say India or Australia, they want to do anything with permanent magnets, you have to be on good terms with the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in fact, many countries are wooing this DRC place. And the amount of cobalt is also very rare. It's not like lithium. And then ye to dono jodi hai. Lithium only
Mm.
goes with cobalt. Now they're trying so many experiments to say instead of cobalt, let us use iron. So once you break the jodi, then if once you use iron, then maybe lithium is not the best. Then you have to look for two different things. It required the genius of Goodenough and Whittingham 50 years ago to discover this lithium cobalt combination, which is and why they delayed giving him a Nobel Prize for so many years. It was practically 100 years when they gave him the Nobel Prize.
So because
But
they were busy giving it to Trump, I guess. So he's
well,
the great scientist that ever
that's
lived.
lovely. That's lovely.
Thank you, sir, for that interesting conversation. And my request to the audience is those of you who are interested in this kind of discussion or this kind of details, check out sir's books. This is going to be the future. This is going to be the fight of the future. There's no question about it. And trust you me, somebody who does this kind of research, I think you should be getting a call from the government pretty fast. Conversation.
They know I exist, but they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah. I hope they do, sir. Thank you so much for your time and for your research especially, and let's hope things actually work out the way we've thought they should in India. And we do basically, supply chains should not hinder into the growth of the country. I think that's the bottom line. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed, Adi. And I'm glad that we used this small example of rare earths to discuss. We went from the specific to the general. This has to do with all kinds of supply chains, global supply chains.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
once again, it's a real pleasure to have been interviewed by you. And I look forward to a future opportunity as well.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaste.